Hello and welcome to Session 5. This week we have quite a lot to get through. We'll look at a brief recap of last week's session, then we're going to look at the games categories and pedagogical principles of GameSense for this week. First, however, I would like to bring your attention to the academic writing tips for Task 1, which you'll find at the top of your label for this session. This is Session 5 and your first task is due on the Sunday night at the end of Session 6. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to provide you with some insight into how to get the most out of your task. So the first thing you will see is on your session page is that there's a link to an audio PowerPoint that I've put there. And this PowerPoint presentation will provide you with important things you should try to do in your response to try and help you maximise your potential marks. So I strongly advise you to watch this presentation, as it really can help you improve what you need to do. If you require other help, of course, don't forget that we have here at ACP our Student Learning Services, and you can contact them and you can send them maybe a draft of your work, or if you're having any other issues, please feel to contact myself or them and they'll help you wherever they can. Obviously, don't leave this to the last moment, because if you do, then it makes it very difficult for us to be able to get back to you. Right, so let's briefly recap last week's session. In that session, we introduced the GameSense model, and I explained the priority for athletes in the model, the GameSense model, is a strategic or tactical understanding of the game, as opposed to direct instruction, which was all about understanding technique. So GameSense, technical, strategic; direct instruction, technical. I also explained that GameSense always takes place in a game or game-like situation, as opposed to direct instruction, which is usually in a closed environment without pressure. Another important component of GameSense is the fact that it's very athlete-centered. This means that through participation in the games and also through appropriate questioning from the coach, the athletes learn to construct their own understanding of the tactics and strategies required for success in that particular game. This then leads to a deeper understanding on the athlete's part, because it's being active participants in their own learning, as opposed to just receiving information and taking it in passively. So let's move on to this session. Today we're going to look at the categories within GameSense and also the pedagogical principles that underpin how to build appropriate GameSense activities. Firstly, you should know that there are 4 categories within GameSense, and these 4 categories are target games, net and wall games, striking and fielding games, and the final category is invasion games. Now, most games and sports can be classified into one of these categories based on the tactical similarities within their game. So, for example, understanding how to use space to create an overlap would be a useful invasion game strategy. So it could be used in things like soccer, rugby league, touch football, and other similar type sports. Or how about knowing how to hit the ball into space so that it can't be returned by an opponent? Obviously that is a good skill to understand for things like tennis, volleyball or squash. So that's the first part. The second part of the lecture is going to look at the pedagogical principles that are used to help promote an understanding of the strategies involved within a game. These 4 principles are game sampling, representation, exaggeration, and also tactical complexity. Basically, these 4 principles are used to help create the activities that will help students to focus their thoughts on the main concept for the session. So to work out how we will make it best so the student understands the skill that we want them to understand. And you'll get more of that within the lecture, obviously. Now, after you've viewed the lecture recording, please watch the 3-part GameSense videos to try and help you improve your understanding of GameSense. Then there's a workbook for you to complete. When you open up the Word document file, you'll see at the top of the page, that there's a link, and just highlight that, paste it into your Google bar, and that'll take you to a website that'll give you information that'll help you answer your questions. Finally, If you haven't started your research yet for task 1, please make sure you get onto that, because if you leave it late, you're really going to struggle with this. Please feel free to contact me if you're having any issues, or even just to let me know how you're going. Thanks a lot.